Now, a report by an anti-smoking charity has recommended a 5% increase on tobacco tax, claiming it would discourage children from buying cigarettes and save millions in health costs. But a smokers' rights lobby says increasing the tax would only force more people to buy cigarettes off the black market. Let's discuss this with people from both camps. Deborah Arnott is from Action on Smoking and Health, ASH, which published the report. She's in our central London studio, while in Cambridge, Simon Clarke is from Forest, the group representing smokers. Welcome to you both. Simon Clarke, if I can come to you first of all, this is a win-win, isn't it? It's going to raise more money, it's going to discourage people from smoking, and it'll save lives.
No, it's a completely crackpot idea, and I'm sure the government will throw it out. Let's put this in perspective. 8 or 9 years ago, the government introduced very similar policies like this. It was called the tobacco escalator. And for several years, tobacco taxation was increased by inflation plus 5%. And all that happened, it set off a smuggling epidemic. And millions of cheap cigarettes were available on the black market. And they actually got into the hands of children, because a lot of these cigarettes were sold by unscrupulous people on street corners. At the same time, the government actually lost £3 billion a year in revenue, which is why Gordon Brown, when he was Chancellor, jumped off the tobacco escalator, because it wasn't working.
OK, Deborah Arnott, a crackpot idea, and it's been proved not to work.
Well, to start with, Simon forgets to mention that his organisation is funded by the tobacco industry, so his salary is paid out of their profits.
Well, but actually, does that have any material relevance to this debate?
It does, because he's spinning exactly the same line as the tobacco industry spins, which is that if you put taxes up, it leads to increased smuggling. Now, he's right, in the 1990s that happened, but that's because the tobacco industry weren't controlling their supply chain. They were exporting enough cigarettes, only smoked in Britain, to Andorra, for example, for every man, woman and child to smoke hundreds every day. Madness, they just came straight back here. Since then, the amount of tobacco that's smuggled has halved, and the government's introduced supply chain legislation, which means that if the tobacco industry allows their cigarettes to be re-imported back here when they're exported, without tax paid on them, they get millions of pounds in fines. So that's just not going to happen.
OK, just in terms of the tax take on this, I mean, obviously you would welcome people having the free will to smoke and smoke as many cigarettes and cigars and take snuff and whatever they want to do for as long as they want to do. But in terms of the tax take, if you're increasing it, surely the government coffers, if the smuggling side could be addressed, would improve.
Well, it hasn't happened in the past. Why should it happen in the future? Let me quote you from the Irish Times, where in Ireland, very similar policies to the ones being advocated by Ash have been introduced. And criminal gangs are actually using young children aged between 12 and 14 to go on to sink estates and sell cigarettes from door to door. Is that what Deborah wants to happen in the UK?
Deborah?
Well, the point I'm making is, as I said before, that's been happening because the tobacco industry is colluded with their...
So you admit it's been happening, Deborah? You admit it's been happening?
But no, it's halved. The amount of cigarettes...
It's halved because tobacco taxation has come off the tobacco escalator.
He's not letting me finish.
The door-to-door selling...
He's not letting me finish. Can I finish what I'm saying,
let's just sort out. Deborah, he said that door-to-door selling had happened. Has it happened?
It has happened in the past, but it's actually under control now. So now is the time to put the price up.
Well,
you
said it's halved. You said it's halved. Is that under control?
I think it is under control. It's down to levels that we haven't seen since the early 1990s. And what this means is that actually we need to put the price up to discourage children from taking up smoking, and it will discourage children. That's why our reports and our submission to the government is supported by 48 other organisations,
Simon Clarke,
including the Foundation for Study of
Simon Clarke,
Death.
how do you discourage children from taking up smoking, Simon Clarke?
Well, of course, you educate children about the health risks of smoking. You increase the age at which they can buy cigarettes, and that's happened from 16 to 18. You obviously have to come down hard on shopkeepers who sell cigarettes to children who are underage. But you don't encourage criminal gangs by creating a big difference in price in the UK with countries such as Eastern Europe. That will clearly encourage criminal gangs to smuggle millions of cheap cigarettes into this country, which will fall into the hands of children.
Yes, okay, please do, because I mean, but you've made that point many times. But just one final answer to that, Deborah.
Yeah, the World Bank has carried out research which shows that Smuggling is an issue of law enforcement. It's not an issue of tax. For example, Norway has one of the highest taxes in the world and very low rates of smuggling. Nigeria has very low rates of taxation, very high rates of smuggling.
Okay.
It's about law enforcement and corruption.
Fine.
It's not about
and
tax.
also the health impact of this as well, Simon Clarke. I mean, wouldn't you accept, or do you accept, that the health costs to the national health system and in terms of absenteeism from work are huge because of tobacco-related illnesses?
Not in relation to the amount of money brought in through tobacco taxation. The government makes £10 billion a year from smokers in tobacco taxation. That dwarfs any money that is said to cost NHS through treating smoking-related diseases. Increasing taxation never ever works. The government will reject these proposals by Ash because it knows they are economic madness, and they're the sign of an anti-smoking organisation that is now desperate and its policies are not working.
All right, Deborah, I think after that, the final word to you.
Well, 2/3 of smokers want to quit. It's addictive. Putting the price up we know works. The World Bank says it works. The World Health Organization says it works. And we know that from our surveys that actually a lot of smokers themselves want the price put up, as long as some of that money goes to helping them
don't
quit.
vote for Christmas, Deborah. Don't be ridiculous.
Well, look at the survey results.
Your survey, eh?
Well, no, hang on. I thought we'd reached a sort of impasse where you both disagreed fundamentally with each other, and that was probably a good place to stop. Simon Clarke and Deborah Arnott, thank you both for taking your Saturday afternoon off to talk to us today about that.